All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome, and we appreciate you being here today. My name is Jules, and I will just be doing the housekeeping in the background. If you have any issues or concerns, feel free to message me in the chat. Today, we will be hearing from Kai Tyson, and they will be sharing with us the Auntie Taught Me Resistance Through Strong Feminine Familial Bonds. And we just ask that you hold questions until the end. And if you have any comments, the chat will be open during the whole event. And again, welcome, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
All right. Hello. Good morning, y'all. Excuse me. We'll wait a couple more minutes before we get started, before we fully jump into things. But can you just tell me in the chat whether or not you can hear me okay, and just make sure that that my sound is coming through okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm super excited for this conversation. Thanks so much, Jules, for everything, for helping out in the background as well. So my name is Kai Tyson. You can probably see my face, but I know I'm sharing my screen, but that's my face. I am an educator. I am a healer. I'm a doula. I'm a childbirth educator. I am an event coordinator. I am a podcaster, and probably a bunch of other things too that I can't think of right now. My pronouns are they, them. I identify as a non-binary femme, and my work is to center the healing and the thriving of Black women, femmes, non-binary folks, and girls, and also making sure that I'm thriving within that. And so obviously this fits right in with a lot of what I do. And I have a couple of different businesses and a couple of different things that I do, but for the purposes of this conversation, I am here as the founder and CEO of Kaluntu Reproductive Justice Center, which was founded in 2018, again, to center Black women, femmes, non-binary folks, and girls, but in the context of reproductive justice. And as I said before, I am a doula, and I was in a lot of doula spaces, or just spaces in general, where I didn't feel that my full self could be seen, that all of my identities could be held. And so I was determined to create space for myself in the birth work world, and for people who might be queer and trans and want to build their families. And they're just navigating the hospitals and the birthing industry and all these things, and the constant misgendering or the microaggressions and all those things. And I felt that, and I wanted to do something for other folks to make it a little bit easier for us to build the families that we want and build the lives that we want. So it's a little bit about me and a little bit about Kaluntu. I would love for us to introduce ourselves, so folks can, I don't know if folks can unmute and speak, but if not, that's fine. We can do introductions in the chat. So, what's your name? What are your pronouns? What organization are you with, if you want to share? And then I would love for folks to uplift the name of one auntie who has positively affected their life. So if you could type those things in the chat, that would be awesome. And I know for me, I'll kind of talk my answers. I've already talked about some of these things, but I'll talk through some of my answers. So my name is Kai Tyson. My pronouns are they, them. My organization is Kalunti Reproductive Justice Center. If I only had to pick one auntie, man, that's hard. I didn't think about this. I didn't think about just naming one person. That's really rough. But I have an aunt, Sheila, that passed away last year that yeah, my family feels that loss because she was such a light. She was so joyful and always wanted us to get together and take pictures and celebrate being together. So I really want to uplift her name, my auntie Sheila. All right, we'll go ahead and move forward. So the learning outcomes for today, what I really want folks to take away from this conversation is I want folks to be able to analyze the auntie role in order to determine the most important attributes of that role. This is a cultural role. This is an important role um, in a lot of different cultures, and so it's really important for us to understand what we're looking at. Discover how the auntie role can be leveraged for resistance. That's why we're here. Justice Now. We're with Spark. We want to fuck some shit up. We want to make sure that we are doing what's best for us, for our people, and design their best auntie life. So if we have some time, we will do a short exercise for folks to design their best auntie life. And I do want to say before we jump into the conversation a little bit that being an auntie, I do want to say it's not gendered in that only women can be aunties or what have you. As I said, I am a non-binary femme, and I am constantly querying what it means to what family is, what community is, and what different roles in the family are. So even though we have this name of auntie that we think of when we think of nurturing folks who have poured into our lives, adults or older folks who have poured into our lives as young folks. They do not have to be women, they do not have to be femmes, but we are looking at the role of auntie so that we can each apply it to our own personal lives, regardless of how we identify. And I hope that that makes sense, but please know that this is not um, an exclusive term by any stretch of the imagination. So community agreements, just because we'll be having some discussion and we'll be talking a little bit, I just want to make sure that this feels safe for folks. So the first one is oops, ouch. So if anyone says anything that, or if anyone hears anything that feels harmful, then they can say ouch. And the person who said the comment or typed the comment maybe can say oops to consider the ramifications of what they said and have an opportunity to rephrase and put different words to what they're trying to say, or maybe reconsider what they're trying to say. Spirit of inquiry. So I'm an educator, and it's really hard to learn when you don't want to learn, when you come to a space not being willing to learn. So a spirit of inquiry is just knowing that we are in the space to learn, and we are in the space to walk away with something new. And that involves vulnerability, at least a little bit. So just be aware of that, and this space is being cultivated to be safe for that. One diva, one mic. Just logistically, it's a headache for multiple people to try to talk at the same time, especially on Zoom or especially on any kind of virtual platform. So please, one person at a time. Prioritize your self-care. Obviously, at any point in this conversation, if there's anything that feels, if you don't feel good for any reason, please prioritize yourself. Don't try to stick it out. We're not really talking about anything that I would consider triggering, but I know that everyone has different experiences, so I can't guarantee that, that this conversation will be free of triggering topics. But so please prioritize your self-care and do what you need to do for yourself. And then, of course, only speak for yourself. Just making sure that we are centering our personal experiences and not trying to speak over other folks or speak for an entire community full of folks with different needs and different interests. Okay, so our agenda. Um, we will be doing a little bit of a chat, an activity in the chat box. We'll have a discussion with a twist. The activity is called My Auntie Looks Like. And then we'll review our learning outcomes and we'll have space for questions, comments, and cries of outrage. So our first activity is called Chat With Me, and we will be using the chat box. So what are 3 words you think of when you think of aunties? Type those in the chat box, and I'll give y'all a couple of minutes to reflect on what those 3 words will be. Okay, I'm seeing some words on here. So I see Valerie said caring, warm, and confidant. I love that. And then Jules said loud hugs and happy tears. I also love those. So yeah, did any of these resonate with you? Did any of the ones that someone else said resonate with you? I love confidant because there's so many times when you know, when you might want to talk to someone, but you don't want to talk to a parent, excuse me, or you don't want to talk to a peer because you do want that older, maybe the older perspective or that more wise perspective, but you want someone who maybe will kind of hold your what you tell them in confidence and will be your confidant and will help you figure things out without necessarily being a parent in that way, quote unquote parent. Are there any other words that resonate with folks? And you can just type the word in the chat that resonated with you. You don't necessarily have to explain it. All right. Thank y'all for participating in that. That was just a quick warm up to get us thinking about aunties. So our discussion with a twist is going to be, it's going to be very introspective and reflective. So since we're obviously not in person, it's not quite the same to have a discussion over Zoom, but I want us to, at the very least, even if we're not talking out loud, to be thinking through and processing some of these questions. So if you have a journal, a blank Google Docs page, back of a receipt, if you have a notebook, your phone notes, whatever, I want us to individually reflect before we kind of report out. So we're going kind of deep, y'all. Okay. Historically, our first question. Historically, why do aunties have such a strong presence in the Black community specifically? So I did say earlier, a lot of different communities have aunties, a lot of brown communities across the world. But I do want to root this in Blackness and Black community. But if you are not Black or you don't have that experience, then feel free to speak to your community as well. So don't feel like you can't speak to this, but please be specific about, you know, in my community, that is not the Black community, this is what an auntie is. Um, so yeah, think about those things, and maybe write down some notes. Okay, take another minute or so to think about this question, and then we'll come back together. Okay, so would anyone like to share in the chat some things that they thought about why aunties have such a strong presence in the Black community?
Hi, my name's Valerie, she, her. One thing that I have heard of is kind of like availability. So for me, in my own experience, it was like my mom or dad were working, and this is like someone in the neighborhood that just happened to be there that was there when I'm walking home from school, and they're like able to wave me down. So just like thinking about someone that was just that was available to be there, not that my parents weren't, but they just happened to be there when I got home from school. And so I would maybe talk to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Valerie. I appreciate you sharing. Yeah, that availability of just like, yeah, my parents are working, and who else can maybe not necessarily quote unquote babysit, but look out for you, right? To make sure that, you know, maybe you're 10 years old and you're technically old enough to stay at home, but you're not necessarily old enough to, you know, handle something that may happen. So then in that case, the aunties are looking out to make sure that you're safe, to make sure that you're, you know, where you're supposed to be, all those types of things. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we could expand what you were saying historically, and just, you know, even more in the past, you know, if the parents weren't around for whatever reason, whether that's working, or if there's only one parent and that parent is working, or that parent's unable to take care of the child, or if that parent is, you know, traveling for work. A lot of Historically, a lot of folks had to travel for work throughout the country, especially Black folks, to go wherever they were hiring, which is where the Great Migration, um, kind of the origin story of that, the Great Migration of Black folks, after World War II and in the 1960s, of moving for jobs. And so an auntie might not be someone you're related to, but it might be a neighbor in your new city, or your new town, or your new neighborhood. Um, and you know, maybe you both grew up in the same town, and you know some of the same people, but you're not necessarily best friends, but y'all are going to look out for each other. You're going to look out for each other's kids. Absolutely. Would anyone else like to share before we move to the next question? Okay. All right, the next question. What roles have aunties played in movement and organizing work? Oh, Jules, I see an answer. Aunties can provide a unique and sometimes objective support for new parents bringing children into the world. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's something I always want to talk about is like new parents and what is the community that you're building around your family and your new baby. And like, people are like, how can I prepare to have a baby? One of the big things to prepare to have a baby is to get your community together and let them know, be very specific and explicit that, like, hey, you are in my community and I need you. Um, are you willing to but also there's the consent piece too of like, hey, my partner and I are planning on starting to have kids within the next 3 years. We would love for you to be a part of that. What role do you feel comfortable taking? Or, because there's the once a week auntie, there's the out of town auntie. There's so many different types of aunties. Like you do not have to fit any one role, but it is imperative that you take care of yourself. And we're going to talk about that too. Like, don't stretch yourself too thin for sake of being a quote unquote a good auntie, because you're not serving anybody that way. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. And that's one of the biggest things. Like, please talk to your friends and your family and the people that you want to be aunties to your kids, and make sure that they consent to it and that they understand what that role is, and what their what you need from them and what you want from them. That's super important. Okay, so what roles have aunties played in movement and organizing work? And I love this question because so often we look at everything really in this capitalistic like lens or this capitalistic mindset. So like when we think of movement and organizing work, we're thinking about like protests and marches and all these different things, but that are very like front lines and very dare I say masculine and a kind of aggressive and like not necessarily, maybe not aggressive, maybe that's not the right word, but like or maybe reactive. I don't know, but basically like I'm picturing like these things where it's like we are coming up against, if we're protesting or if we're organizing against something, like sometimes that energy can be a little aggressive. I don't know a better word, and not aggressive in like I guess the traditional way of like super aggression, but I'm just thinking like it's a little bit more like a couple steps beyond assertive, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, my point is that there are other roles in the movement. So yes, we need our front lines people. We need the people that are calling our senators, but we also need people who are nurturing. We need the people who are encouraging others to rest. We need the people who cook. We need the people who take care of kids. We need the people who are giving advice. We need our elders who are, our older aunties who are giving us advice from when they did this 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We need all those different voices. And so think about roles are not just being on the front lines with a sign or, going to city hall. Like there are many, many, many roles in movement and organizing work. So yeah, think outside the box. And think about what roles you've seen personally in organizing work that you've been a part of, or maybe that you've seen in recent movements. All right, any thoughts? And you can just type in the chat. You definitely don't have to go off mute. I get it. It's Sunday morning. Um, yeah. Okay, so we can kind of talk through this. So aunties, yeah, anything. So I guess what I was trying to say was saying that like front lines work can be maybe not aggressive is not the right word that I'm trying to say, but like hmm, and it's not necessarily like proactive versus reactive, but it's just like the energy that's like maybe active versus passive or something. I don't know, but like that front lines work can sometimes be really active, in that you're going externally, you're going away somewhere else to do a thing. And then I guess I see an auntie's role in movement and organizing work a lot of times to be, no, it's still not active and passive. That's also not what I'm trying to say, but just like it's like it's internal, maybe external versus internal. Maybe like the front lines work can be very external. And then I feel like aunties remind me like to prioritize myself. Aunties remind me to take care of myself. Aunties remind me that I'm bomb as fuck. Aunties remind me that um, that I'm capable of anything. Like aunties like will like pump me up and like remind me why I'm doing this work, or will nurture me while I'm doing this work. Here's some food. Go take a nap. Go, we're having a game night tonight to decompress. We gonna watch a movie tonight. Like I feel like that's the auntie energy, and I hope that makes sense. Yeah, maybe external versus internal of how aunties um, interact with you and help you see yourself. I feel like my aunties always make me feel great about being me, um, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, etc. What wisdom have we learned from our aunties? And I think it's as a just as a human and as a Black person in this country whose ancestors were stolen, and built this whole country, I I know that there's so much information that was lost, obviously, but a lot of that information, like we can't go back and gain the information that we lost, but we can take advantage of of the opportunities that we have now to, excuse me, to connect with our elders, to connect with our aunties, to connect with those around us who have things for us to learn. And so it's crucial, it's so crucial for us to make sure that we are documenting our elder stories, that we are recording their stories, whether it's audio, video, writing it down, co-writing a book with them, helping them get on podcasts, whatever it is. Like we need to make sure that we are passing down our elders' wisdom. And so I would love if anyone has any wisdom specifically from their aunties um, that they would like to share. I would love to hear it. And I'm thinking of my aunt. I have another aunt named Tina, who passed away like 12, 13 years ago. But she was very much, she was one of those people that was effortlessly good at so many random things like flower arranging and like any kind of decorative anything. Like she could just like put together a room. And but she, like, that's not the type of work that she did. She was working in factories. She was doing a lot of hard labor that's hard on your body as a middle-aged Black woman. um, and I feel like from her I learned that joy, like, you don't necessarily have to have a perfect life to have joy. you don't necessarily have to have everything put together to have joy, because she had the biggest laugh, the biggest, like, happiest laugh. And regardless of whatever was going on, like, she found ways to create joy in her life. And I, yeah, we all need that. Honestly, we all need that, because especially right now, like, life is not a crystal stair for most folks right now. So how can we still find that joy? How can we still be creative? How can we still take advantage of what we have around us, and the resources around us, to make sure that we're living, that we're doing something joyful, and we're not just going to work and coming home, or we're not just, trudging through our day. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to share? Oh, Jules, I see your comment. I love what you said. Wisdom I've learned from my aunties. Don't feel like you have to shrink yourself to be palatable. Yes, that transcends to identity and has helped me with my identity. Absolutely. I feel like that's very much auntie wisdom of, like, no, honey, you are amazing as you are. Like, if they don't like you, it's their loss. Like, that's big auntie energy to me. Like, when you tell your auntie that you broke up with somebody or they broke up with you, well, fuck them anyways. Like, I feel like that's big auntie energy. So, like, very much that, like, yeah, be your full self, and they will love it or they won't. But either way, you'll be fine. Um, Thank you so much, Jules, for sharing. I see Dom wrote spiritual practice and the importance of connecting with ancestors. Yes, like, that is a gift. That is such a gift for that to be passed down, because obviously connecting with ancestors is such a familial practice. The fact that an auntie could introduce that to you, or at least, help you deepen your practice, that's such a gift. And I'm grateful you had that gift. Thank you for sharing. Dom, is there anything specific, any one specific thing that sticks out to you in regards to connecting with ancestors or spiritual practice, or just like the general importance of it? All right, we're gonna keep it moving just for sake of time. I love Generation Z. Like, I don't know if y'all are Gen Z. I'm a millennial. I'm a very solid millennial. I'm officially a full adult. It's terrifying. Don't do it. But I love Gen Z because, like, y'all, or I don't know if I'm talking to anyone on Gen Z here, but y'all just do not care. Like, any kind of structure, any kind of paradigm, any kind of, like, box that has existed before, Gen Z is like, all right, look, so I'm 7 years old, I'm non-binary, I'm queer, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And I need this is what I need, and you're gonna take care of me, and the things that I need, because I deserve it. And, like, just that confidence like, I could have never dreamed of having that confidence as a queer kid. Like, and it makes me so happy to see. And I'm very excited to see, as Gen Z becomes adults, like, how culture will shift, because with every generation culture shifts. But I'm really excited to see what Gen Z grows up to be. So with that being said, what will the next generation of aunties look like? And like I said, I'm a millennial, so I kind of looked around one day and I was like, oh wait, I'm an auntie. Like, I'm not only am I an actual auntie with, like, my siblings have kids, but also, like, I'm an auntie, like, I do all the stereotypical auntie things. And so, like, I don't know if I'm the current generation of aunties or the next generation. I don't know, whatever. But just think about, yeah, what will the next group of aunties coming up be doing that's different than current aunties, or maybe old school aunties? Oh, Dom, I see Dom's comment. They said, my folks are from Jamaica, and my auntie was telling me about who we descended from the other day, paying homage to Nanny of the Maroons. That's awesome. Being able to connect with those ancestors and tap into that power in order to reaffirm my own has been a big and important shift in my own self-reflection. Yes. And when you like, just the whole thing that like you are your ancestors and your ancestors are you, and your auntie has that familial information of like, hey, these are who some of your ancestors were. Like that is such a gift. And thank you so much for sharing. That is dope. That is really dope. And like seeing yourself reflected in your ancestors and seeing them reflected in you, it's just it's so powerful. I feel like I can't even like describe how powerful it is. Okay, so Valerie says the next generation. I definitely think they will have healthier boundaries, especially when it comes to taking care of themselves while doing the work. Absolutely. Yes. I think boundaries has become I don't want to say a hot topic because it is an important topic, but it's become more common to talk about in the past couple of years. And I think, if we're having these conversations as adults, then these conversations are trickling down to the kids, and the kids are the kids are meditating, the kids are doing yoga, the kids are like out here. So yes, the kids are absolutely going to have their boundaries, and they're going to carry that into adulthood as aunties. And Jules, I see your comment. The next generation of aunties could like more nuanced language to support people's liberation and realities. The language evolving out of the work of millennials and Gen Z is useful and pertinent to understanding each other's realities. Looks like. Oh, okay. It's all good. I got you. Thank you, Jules. Yeah, absolutely. I think language is going to continue to evolve, and it's going to continue to sharpen with our generations, because I see it so often with movement, not necessarily with movement work, but with like the general discourse around movement work. Like there's certain terms that older generations are afraid to say, and there's historical reasons for that. Like I was listening to this audiobook yesterday, and it was actually an Eric Jerome Dickey book, but he was kind of spitting some truth, and I wasn't expecting it. But it's a newer one, like I can't remember the name of it, but anyways, he was talking about how just like, generationally, Black folks, we have been socialized, trained in this country to be I almost want to say docile, to be different to white folks, to be to avoid being the angry Black person, to avoid mentioning the elephant in the room, to avoid saying certain words straight out. And like I feel like younger folks, we're getting away from that. And it's like, no, I'm going to say that I am Black. I'm going to say that my descendants were stolen and enslaved and humanly trafficked. I will say that there is a current and ongoing genocide against Black folks that started 500 years ago and is still happening. That slavery is not over. That there's the private prison industry and the school to prison pipeline, and all the things, right? But we're being a lot more like I said, sharp and precise with our words. And so we're labeling these things like, no, Black folks are dying during childbirth because of racism, not because they have a higher chance of X, Y, and Z. No, because of racism, period. And so I think with that will trickle down into, a lot of our familial relationships and conversations. And like, we all love, aunties and play cousins and things like that. And yes, we're absolutely probably going to keep those terms, but we're also going to sharpen the things. Like if this is queer auntie and this is our queer TT or what have you, then, it might be a little bit more precise than to just say, oh, these are your aunties. Like, no, this is your TT, this is TO, this is uncle, this is whoever, and these are their specific roles in your life, little baby or little child. Thank you for that. I definitely think, the next generation of aunties, both boundaries and that language will be really important. All right, I think this is our last question. I think so, yes. How does an auntie take care of themselves? So we were kind of talking about boundaries, making sure our language reflects our realities. So how does an auntie take care of themselves? And how should an auntie take care of themselves? Yes, Dom, auntie care is so holy. They always smell amazing. Heard? Yeah, like their houses smell amazing. They smell amazing. Yeah, yeah. Yes, all I can say is yeah. Thank you for saying that. That's, mm-hmm. Uh, oh, Dom, you still typing. I'm gonna let you type before I start reading. Go ahead. Thank you, Dom. I feel so. Dom says, I feel like aunties take care to another level for themselves because of the level of care they provide for others. Yes, like you have to almost because um, I was talking about money earlier, and about how like I've been trying to decolonize my idea of what money is. Money is just a way to exchange energy. If money is just an energy, if everything is energy, right? Everything's made out of molecules, whatever. What we are doing is we're exchanging energy with folks. If I'm paying someone money to change the oil in my car, I'm saying, hey, I recognize the value that this service is and the energy that you put out to do this. So I'm going to give you some energy back in the form of money. Like that's how I've had to calibrate my mind to think about what money is. And so like thinking about that and just thinking about energy exchange, like you said, the level of care that they provide for others, like that is an energy exchange. So then yeah, how does an auntie pour back into themselves, or how does an auntie receive that back from their community? Because also, oh, that would have been a great question to add. And you know, that's kind of my next question, I guess, anyways, is yes, how does an auntie take care of themselves? But then also how does a community take care of an auntie? Because we talk about self-care, the next level, or I guess if we're thinking about it, I guess like systemically, like there's self-care, there's community care, and then there's like maybe like societal care, or you know, that's where the country or the society that you're living in, their infrastructure is supposed to help take care of you, right? Where you have insurance and you have enough money to take care of your family and blah, blah, blah. Like societal care, community care, and then self-care. If it's like three circles like within each other. I can see it in my head, but I can't necessarily describe it. But yeah, so of course, we need to take care of ourselves, and aunties need to take care of themselves. But then, how does the community take care of aunties? Is my point. So yeah, think about that. Let me know what you think. Okay. So if y'all have any thoughts about how community cares for aunties, I would love to hear it. But if not, that's cool too. We can keep it moving. Um, and if you do have thoughts, like you don't necessarily have to, you can keep typing or keep thinking or whatever, and maybe you'll have an answer later. That's perfectly fine too. We can always jump back and forth in the conversation. Okay. So our activity, we are here. So my auntie looks like, so we got to take a few minutes to reflect on what we've discussed today. Um, and since we are all capable of being aunties, what type of auntie will you be moving forward? And what type of auntie are you willing to commit to be moving forward? So think about the discussion questions, your aunties and your experiences, and kind of put all that together and maybe jot down a couple of words um, or a couple of ideas of the type of auntie that you will be moving forward. And then after that, there's a part two. But I will let y'all take a few minutes first before we get into part two. And just to clarify, your reflection is self reflection. You don't have to share out, you don't have to put anything in the chat. So feel free to just reflect internally. All right, take about another minute to keep thinking, and then we'll move on to the next part of the activity. All right, time is up. I see Jules put something in the chat. It says, aunties may have different love languages. One of my aunties feels supported when they're able to take up space to express pain and sadness outwardly and without shame. Another one of my aunties likes to party and be loud and be festive and express their pain differently when they feel that way. Wow, yes. Thank you for sharing that. That's absolutely like, yeah, hopefully this goes without saying, but being an auntie is not a monolith. And every auntie, yeah, definitely has different love languages. But I love that both of those aunties like bring something important, because yes, we absolutely need to be able to grieve without shame, but we also need to be able to party and be loud and be festive and like not apologize for that. So I love that there's those two sides of that, and I hope they're on the same side of the family so they like balance each other out, because I think that's beautiful. And I think I that is an illustration of also that like so many Black and brown folks, we don't have this duality that dominant white culture can have sometimes, and we understand that like there's a time and a place for almost everything. um and you know that it's okay to have your emotions, it's okay to have your grief, and it's okay to party and have fun, because that also gets shamed, right? We don't really talk about that a lot, but like people get shamed for wanting to go out and have fun and go to parties and stuff. But we know that, like, for example, we know that hip movement, like that we store trauma in our hips, and we also know that moving our hips can help release some of that trauma. So personally, that's why I believe that twerking is an act of healing, because we're literally shaking the trauma out of our body, and our ancestors knew that. That's why they was dancing all the time everywhere and being partying, singing and dancing, because art and movement are healing. And so is being able to express other emotions without feeling shame. So thank you for sharing that, Jules. Okay, so since we are at home, we're on computers or we're on phones or whatever we're on, if you have access to some type of, whether it's like Pinterest or a Google slides, like one slide that you decorate or whatever, you can use like Microsoft Paint. I don't know, is that still a thing? But just like somehow create a visual representation of the auntie that you're committed to being, using the medium of your choice. So I know some folks have like Procreate or Canva or whatever, but it doesn't have to be anything intense. Like I said, like I love Pinterest. Like you could create a quick Pinterest board that says like Auntie Taught Me, and just like pin like 5 things that are just representative of the auntie that you would like to be. So don't make it a whole big thing. This is again very introspective. You only have to share, or you don't have to share. You only share if you want to at the end. But yeah, take some time and like kind of put together an auntie vision board, like a 15-minute auntie vision board. So yeah, we're gonna take 15 minutes ish. Let me make sure that that still keeps us okay on time. We'll take 12 minutes. Just to make sure we have enough time to wrap everything up at the end. But let's take 12 minutes and put that together, and then we'll come back. Okay, we're about halfway through, so you got about 6 minutes. So please don't stress about this. It doesn't have to be anything super intense. All right, 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. All right, so we have about 30 seconds left, and I'm gonna pause my screen share because I'm gonna share my what I came up with first. So don't mind me while y'all finishing up. Okay. Oh, I'm already unmuted. Okay, great. So, what happened? Oh, there it is. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so I did a Pinterest board because I love Pinterest. So hopefully y'all can see this. So I cheated a little bit in that I am already an auntie, and I've been one for a while. So these are a combination of things I like to do with my nibblings and things that I am committed to doing with my nibblings. So I'll start from the bottom actually. So the first one is the 10 yoga poses you can do with an active toddler. I used to do yoga with my oldest niece all the time, and now she's 15 and she's like a dancer and she does like musical theater and stuff, but she still loves to do yoga with me and she still loves to work out with me. Like that's still a thing that we'll do. And I used to also the second one, empathy yoga, 5 partner yoga poses for kids. Um, this isn't exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for like more like poses of like an adult and a kid, like people who are 2 different sizes, but like um how can you encourage hobbies and activities, and that's what this top one up here is, like hobbies and projects for teens and tweens, like encouraging hobbies and activities and encouraging them to find the things that they like to do and the things that they enjoy, and like giving them space to express those things with me. And, maybe it's like the most boring thing in the world to me, but I'm going to act like it's super interesting because my nibbling is into it. And I won't tell them it's super boring to me, but I'll at least like it for their sake, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But like showing them my interests and then incorporating them into my interests, like yoga, has kind of showed them, I guess, by example that, what are your interests? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? I love this one, the how to prepare your tween for her first period, just because like I feel like I would have loved to have an auntie give me all those like have the talk with me and all that instead of my mom, because it was just awkward and we were in the car. There was no like empathy. It was just like, oh yeah, your period started and this is how it goes. And I was just kind of like, I thought it was going to be a little bit more fanfare than this. And I don't know, I guess my mom was, she did her best, of course, but yeah, I would have liked to be prepared, one, before it happened instead of like the day of, but then also like to feel like I have multiple people I could talk to about something like that. So big things like puberty and like life changes, like I want to be the type of auntie that can help usher them through those life changes because I've been there before them. This one on the right, how to teach a scared teenager how to drive. I'm also the out of town auntie. So if I go home or if my nibblings come down here to see me, then like I'd be the ones like, how old are you? You're 14 or you're 15? Okay, we can go driving. So then like, hopefully again, because driving with my parents was not a fun experience either. And like, yeah, just having someone else to teach you how to drive who's not like gonna yell at you the entire time, or like who's not the same people that are always telling you what to do that you barely listen to anyways. I don't know, something about just being someone outside of parents is helpful. And I'm realizing I'm talking a lot, so some other participatory things like cooking with kids. I love anything that involves like us spending time together that also has like an outcome. Kids like eat that stuff up. So that's what's on mine. So would anyone like to, and you don't have to share your entire thing, you don't have to explain it, but would anyone like to, even if you just talk about it, you don't have to, again, you don't have to like share your screen or anything, but just, yeah, what did y'all come up with, or what reflections do you have from this activity? I see Dom said, I aspire to be a protector auntie. Yes, protector auntie. That is a sacred role. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I'm going to reshare the presentation as well. Here we go. Yeah. If anyone else would like to share, you can. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap up the conversation. Or I'll go ahead and start to wrap up. And if you want to share in the chat, you can feel free to do so, just to make sure we don't go out of time, over time. Okay, Dom said, someone who is not afraid of having the transparent and upfront dialogues and can prevent harm and facilitate healing. Say that. Yes. Ashe. Yes, that is sacred, a sacred role, a truly sacred role. So yes, thank you for that. And I love that. And I am rooting for you being your best auntie, truly. So I wanted to go back over the learning outcomes just to see if we did what we said we was gonna do. So if y'all could, after each one, just like in the chat, you could type yes or no, just to say whether or not we achieve these learning outcomes. So the first one is analyze the auntie role in order to determine the most important attributes of the role. Do y'all feel like we did that? Just a quick Y or N is fine. Yes, Jules says yes. Awesome. And Dom says yes. Second one, discover how the auntie role can be leveraged for resistance. Do you think we covered that adequately? And I mean, you know, an hour, 15 minutes is never going to be adequate enough, but did we cover this? Awesome, thank you. And the third one, design your best auntie life. I see a bunch of Y's and yeses. Thank y'all for participating. So yeah, I think we definitely designed our best auntie life. So now we have, oh, we only have like 2 minutes, but questions, thoughts, comments, cries of outrage, reflections, anything y'all would like to say. Jules, you made a little digital collage. Yes, I love it. And again, y'all can just put whatever in the chat. Y'all don't have to go off of mute or anything. But yes, Dom, grateful. Thank you for being grateful for the space. Thank y'all for coming to this space. If y'all would like to, I think my next, yes. So my next, here's all my info. Please keep in touch. Those are some of my nibblings. That was Christmas a couple of years ago with my family. So yeah, thank y'all so much. And please keep in touch. This was a super awesome conversation and I'm grateful for y'all.
Thank you so much, Kai. Incredible.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll hang out for a couple of minutes, I guess, if anyone has any like questions or anything. And then Jules, do you need anything from me to wrap up?
I think that you are all set to move on however you need to, and then I'll get all of these recordings back to where they need to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank y'all, Dom and Valerie and Jules for participating. And I hope y'all have an awesome rest of your day. And yeah, enjoy the end of the conference. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you.